Is here. Excellent. So we've got great attendance today, and we also have 39 participants on the Zoom. I saw a warning. I tend to be very dynamic and mobile, so if you're listening, I will try to stay within range of the mic if you're on the Zoom. So I'm Scott Nicholas. I'm Senior Director of Strategic Programs at the Linux Foundation. I help set up open source projects at the LF. And since the launch of the LF Deep Learning Foundation in March, I've been coordinating our support of the foundation. In Mazen's talk, Mazen talked about community, talked about ecosystems. And I thought for a couple minutes right now, I would kind of take us back to open source basics a little bit and map out what we're all trying to accomplish here. Right now, we have 3 projects within LF Deep Learning. We've got active discussions underway to bring other projects to present to the Technical Advisory Council, which is the body that's responsible for bringing projects into the overall umbrella foundation. The interest that we're experiencing from the community is very strong. AI needs a solution to develop an ecosystem right now. And we think LF Deep Learning Foundation and all of the work that all of you are doing is positioned for that. Ruben, if I may ask one question, is it the bottom button? It's blinking, but it's not advancing. And as we're doing that, a quick thank you to our hosts, AT&T, for this lovely space today. I also want to thank Tech Mahindra for the breakfast. The LF Deep Learning Foundation is sponsoring the lunch, and there is a reception not far from here afterwards that I hope all of you can make, and that's sponsored by Huawei. So thank you very much, everybody that's helping out today. All right, that's okay. So why are we doing this in open source? Why are we all coming together in a collaborative format when there are other models of collaboration? We could all sign really long joint development agreements with each other, have formal meetings, have non-disclosure agreements that are this thick, lock everything down, and contribute to enhancements that way. That worked for a long time. What is it about open source that is uniquely useful to AI? When I look at reasons for organizations to participate in open source, I see 3 economic drivers, 3 drivers behind a business's decision to get involved in open source. And all of these apply to what we're doing in AI. The first is expense control, expense reduction, taking waste and duplicity out of the system. If 10 companies are competing and they all have to have the same base layer, that's wasteful. Why not collaborate on a base layer that you can all leverage and use, and then put your R&D effort into what's unique about your particular solution. Open source also enables creation of new revenue opportunities. New business models are opened up just by virtue of having groups come together. Let me give one example that's relevant to Acumos. When we present on Acumos and the LF Deep Learning Foundation, we are frequently asked, oh, you have a platform for models. How can I sell my model? Can I license my model? That's all right. I know this. I can go through it. Thank you, Ruben.
It's just like having a bubble screen.
So as Acumos goes through releases, we will see consulting businesses spring up around it. That's my prediction. We will see other ways of generating revenue that we haven't really imagined yet, that will be created because all of our efforts working together. So that's the second area. The third reason that organizations pursue business strategies in open source, that in my experience, is because it's a way for solving problems that we can only solve together. The classic example here is security. The chain is only as strong as the weakest link. In AI, my view is model bias falls into that. If we're all contributing models, if we're all chaining models together, we're all applying it to data, but we lack a common language as to how to look at the data that went into those models, how to think about bias behind those models, then we're going to embed defects way at the bottom of the stack that's going to go all the way up. Together, we can develop that language, the vocabulary, the approaches for identifying bias, for incorporating fairness, for figuring out how to share data. We can do that together and reduce and mitigate those potential problems. The vision of LF Deep Learning Foundation is to build an ecosystem of projects and communities. Mazen had a slide up that talked about the various telecom projects, and that's a great ecosystem. Lots of different pieces all leveraging each other. Right now in open source, and Ibrahim Haddad from the LF, who's here today, has written on this, there's a lot of fragmentation. A lot of people are trying things. That's great. A lot of the projects that are out there have a dominant owner. Most of the developers come from a single company. There isn't a lot of developer diversity. And that's okay in the beginning. We start with that point. But there are a dozen or more frameworks. It's probably not sustainable long term. Longer term, we want to find ways for, just using frameworks as an example, to work together, to differentiate themselves, to focus on the areas where that particular framework, for example, is best. Through building an ecosystem, we can do that. Right now, we have a series of meetings that have gone underway that have been very helpful. Our Technical Advisory Council, which I indicated was the group that is responsible for onboarding projects, has been hosting a series of technical calls. We've had presentations on the Onyx model interchange format, Kubeflow, Pachyderm, which is version control for data, and other formats. And that already has given rise to work within the Acumos teams to leverage those projects upstream. So let me leave you with a couple predictions. I think over time, and these are my personal predictions versus something official from the LF, I think we will see increasing developer diversity within AI projects. We will see communities come together to solve the question of how do we think about data? How do we share data? How do we track data provenance? We'll see projects focus. And over time, we will see a reduction of overlapping aspects. And projects that perhaps were fully competitive can focus in areas where they are relatively strongest. We're at a very exciting point in time. I think it's extremely early days in AI open source, and the potential is tremendous. To give one example, to me, this feels like CNCF, Cloud Native Computing Foundation, 3 years ago, started with a single project. CNCF is now approaching 30 projects, has giant events every year. The potential for AI and the potential for the projects of the LF Deep Learning Foundation is very similar. So also want to emphasize something else Mazen said. Membership in LFDL is not required to participate technically. If you're interested in solving a problem, if you see a bug, contribute, fix it. We find that the developer that contributes a patch, she will come back and start contributing more. So I encourage everybody, if you're interested, start attending the meetings. Acumos is up to, I believe, 30 technical meetings a month. That's phenomenal momentum. If you have questions about any of the projects, seek me out and we can help you get started. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and let the interesting stuff start. So thank you, everybody.